Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Live here on Keystroke
blue
Medium.
shirt.
I am Josh. My shirt is blue haze. It's here with
We're all wearing blue shirts, believe it or not.
Chuck
True or
Manley
false?
and Scott Moon. Yeah, see, I don't understand why your shirts come up blue and mine don't.
I don't know. It's got to be your camera or
It's got to
something.
be my camera.
Yeah.
But welcome everybody on this awkward time on a Monday. This is Scott's third. Is it your first or second or third night working? First night working nights.
I worked last night. Was my first night working.
Technically, it's a morning for you.
Yes, I don't know what it is. It's sometime when I'm not asleep or at
That's
work.
Right.
Wearing a blue shirt.
So, for those of you that don't know, well, hold on a minute. Who was number one? Unity 151 BookTube gets the Keystroke Medium golf clap of approval, approval. We're approved. Welcome everybody in the live chat.
Josh,
Unity, Nathan.
I'm
a little drunk on coffee. Lauren, Walt, William Joseph Kennedy. Welcome.
Walt says there really is no shirt.
There is no shirt.
We're doing that with CGI. Josh's wardrobe is all CGI.
One of these days, I need to turn on the green screen and make it like I wonder if I could do it right now. Watch this. Let me see if I could do it. Oh, do you guys see that? Do you see that? Weird.
I see like a brick wall sort of phasing in.
You're like Ghost. It's Ghost Josh.
But it's like over you too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Your shirt was blue for a second.
It was blue.
Yeah.
No.
Are you doing that with your camera?
Yeah.
Huh.
You should put that green screen up behind and do some crazy shit.
Hey, my shirt's blue.
It is. I don't understand. It's magic.
That's so weird.
Technology.
I did that.
You must have had a filter or something on it.
I was completely by accident, which coincidentally is how I fix all of Scott's computer problems. It's all by accident.
By accident.
And that's the other thing too, is now that we've come this far into the show, we should really talk about how we all accidentally chose to wear blue shirts. I'm not sure what that says. But
this is not the official Keystroke Medium color.
This was not a coordinated effort by the hosts of the show to wear blue. But it is what it is. And we'll be proud about it. Blue.
Blue, go blue.
Dean is in the chat. Hello, Dean. Today we're gonna have a roundtable episode. We got a couple topics we're gonna talk about. The murky middle was brought up in the group, and also a couple other things like genre mashups, and that might be fun to talk about.
That sounds fun.
And what there was
talk about Scott with 3 T's.
Yeah, Scott with 3 T's. The third T is silent. I kind of actually feel left out, Chuck, because you don't have a really cool nickname.
He's Papa
Chuck.
Oh wait, I got one for you.
Don't do it. I know what you're thinking. Don't do it.
And here it comes. Bum bum bum. Drum roll.
I will drop out. I swear to God. Oh, okay, that's a good one. That's not what I thought you were gonna do.
Make me a meme check.
Hey close. James, how are you? Yeah, it was close. I'm really clear. What did you think I was gonna put in there?
I've been catching a lot of shit for going off on Irregardless last night.
Oh, that was
during my drunken stupor. So.
We should go into that, but I don't want to make it drop out.
Bullshit word, and it is.
100% agree.
I agree, 100%. Keystroke Medium stands against Irregardless.
We are standing firm against Irregardless. If you use it, you shall henceforth be banned and tarred and feathered.
But not really.
I also do like James's reference to our show title today. I prefer calling it the moist sticky middle.
So gross. We're talking about pastries.
We went to pastries?
Irregardless. So I'm going to tell you what I've been up to this week, because it was super fun what I just did on Saturday, and very proud of myself. I skied successful.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Did you get a lake enema?
I did.
You got more than one.
I did. It took me a couple times, but I finally got up. So what happened is the first time I went skiing on skis that were made in like 1937. They were like wood, and they whatever. It was
Water
it
skiing
was
we're talking about.
it was rough. But anyway, so I went to get my boat serviced this last week, and while I was picking it up, I saw a pair of skis in the boat store, and I said, you know what? I'm going to buy a pair of new skis. And so I did, and they've got some type of, I don't know, some kind of poly, whatever the hell, on the bottom of them, and they've got this concave surface, so it catches the water. And
So not made in 1934.
Not made in 1937. Yes. Yeah. So they go on a little easier. So got up. The only thing that stopped me was that my hands would get tired, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm done. I'll let go of the rope. But yes, twice I got water intimate by the lake.
I'm not an expert water skier. I had done some growing up. I can tell you a pro tip for not getting a lake enema is just wear your cutoff jean shorts from high school, and you won't get that because they'll be too tight. I killed Josh.
Well done.
I got him.
Well done.
Kapow.
You got him.
That's a coffee enema to the face.
Boom.
I'm really certain that we've had this conversation 100,000 times before. If I'm having a drink of coffee, you don't tell a joke that's going to make me spill coffee all over my computer.
Yeah, it'll wake you up.
You have to use my computer, which will break on you because my computer.
So yeah, I skied. That was fun. I tried to get the older kids, not the little kids, the older kids to ski. Sean almost made it. He was super close. The next time we go out, these skis actually came with like a bracket that keeps them together so that you just have to worry about standing up and balancing. So we're going to put that bracket on next time and see if they can do it. We found out after we were done at the lake that we were under a heat advisory, and it was like 117 degrees outside.
That's
which directly contributed to everyone feeling like shit on Sunday. And so we just basically looked at each other like this all day. Ugh.
Nice.
But then I had to clean the boat. So I've always, Chuck, you know this because you've owned a boat before.
Yes.
The amount of time that you spend on the lake is actually directly proportional to the amount of time you spend cleaning the boat off the lake.
Yes. And you usually end up
doing a 1-to-1 ratio.
And I was doing it 100% by myself.
Yeah, that was my biggest problem. Is I take everybody out on the boat, wife, kids, whoever, and suddenly I'm like, "Where y'all going? I got shit to do."
Hey, we got to clean the boat.
I'm not really I'm not a boat guy to begin with. I got it because my wife wanted it. So I mean, I had that thing for about a year, and I finally just said, "Fuck this! I've had enough. I'm done." I told my wife, I said, "If you want to keep it, you take care of it. I'm over it."
I'm pretty sure they invented audiobooks for boat cleaning, though.
Oh, I got through about 5 hours of the core while I was cleaning the boat.
Yeah.
The good thing is, though, I think once a month will be a good cleaning, but the other times it's just basically a wipe down. The pontoons don't require a whole lot of cleaning. I just pressure wash the top of where the boat carpet is, quote unquote, and that gets most of the dirt out. But
Silent Wolf says best day of owning a boat, buying it. Second best day, selling it.
Absolutely true. 100% true.
I'm pretty sure that ties directly to our topic today of writing.
That's right.
That could help you with your murky middle.
That's right. He also says, or they also say, am I going to wakeboard? Actually, my wife wants to try to wakeboard, so we might buy one of those too. So, other than that, I got
Facebook.
Yes, I got 2 chapters done in Tranquility, and got about 1,300 into another one. I edited 2 of Devin's chapters. And the books, I think we're sitting at 40,000 words right now, 35,000. I'm not sure. I have to look. Made some good progress last week.
Nice.
So this week we're moving right along too. So good times. Anyway, I hogged a whole bunch of time there. I'm sorry. Who wants to go next?
What about you, Checker?
Still plugging away on Jack Dark Book 2. My son started some of his high school classes already, trying to get a head start and get the boring stuff out of the way online. So I spent some, I had to kind of help him from time to time. Although it's reached a point where he knows way more about how that shit works than I do. Spent all day Saturday at a softball tournament with my daughter, and they ended up taking first place in that one. So that was a big deal.
Being golf clap for victory.
They did real well. It's the first one they made. And the thing about it is, because of COVID, the first half of this season, they weren't allowed to practice. So like all the teams are showing up and they're all just like super rusty because nobody had any field time to get ready for the tournaments.
Yeah.
But this is the first one they really showed up and played hard and took the trophy. And, I'm pretty proud of her. She played really hard. She, poor kid, she hit one and it fouled straight down under her big toe and broke the toenail. And she bled like a stuck pig, but that kid just kept running, man. I'm like, that's my girl. All right. But yeah, plugging away on Jack Dart Book 2. I'm way behind just because of the way things are right now, but I'm probably halfway done with it. I haven't actually checked the word count recently. But yeah, and I've just got, as always, have all my plans for finishing up the Grace Cordova thing and getting back into the Pikmin files, and got plenty to do.
And you got to watch Hamilton too. That was fun.
That was an experience. Yes.
I sense a underlying backstory.
Well, my girls kind of talked me into watching it with them. I didn't really give a shit about seeing it, but I kind of was curious what the big deal was. So I watched it with them, but I knew that I would need some alcohol reinforcement to get through it. And I haven't had a drink in like a week before last night. So I ended up getting quite inebriated, unintentionally, sitting there watching Hamilton. I will say this, because I'm the age I am and it was all rap and hip hop and stuff, I really didn't understand about half of the dialogue, quote unquote dialogue lyrics, I guess you'd call them, in it. But from strictly a visual stage appearance kind of stagecraft perspective, it was amazing. I mean, the way they presented the sets and the scenes during different points in the play to reflect the emotions of the characters on stage and stuff. I mean, it was masterfully done. It really was. I was super impressed by that. Again, I didn't understand half of what they said, but so
I never stopped.
It was worth it. And and I don't know, maybe if I try to listen to it, just the audio version of it without, being inebriated, it might be better.
You should watch it.
That led to I saw that thing on Instagram about the Irregardless thing.
And then it was like, it's on.
My defenses were already down, and it just, because that's been a pet peeve of mine forever. I hate that word, non-word. And that just set me off. And my wife was laughing at me. I
could see him just sitting there on the couch, like he's already irritated by not understanding the movie. He's like, whatever, stupid new movie, and blah, blah, blah. And he opens his phone, and then furthermore.
That's pretty much what happened, man. What happened.
So I quickly Googled Irregardless because I thought it'd be a good topic to transition to. It says, yes, we define irregardless as regardless. Many people find irregardless to be a nonsensical word.
Yes, it is.
Regardless
means without regard. Irregardless means without regard. Therefore, irregardless means with regard. It's a stupid fucking word.
I love it. Without. I'm going to go out without. I'm going without.
He ain't got no regardless, Lieutenant Dan.
That's nice. So we used to have a lieutenant that would give us a word of the day that you had to work into your radio traffic, and then you get points or something. I'm not really sure how it worked, but so I'd come up with words like pedagogical or something like that. Work that into a conversation with whatever your people you're making a call with.
We were really bored on Second Shift one day, and Bob Gulliver gave us Second Shift Southside bingo, basically, and we had to go find 10 of these items and take pictures. And the first one who had the first deal won bingo, and like so there were really odd things like a shoe in the street, like one shoe in the street. You had to find one shoe in the street.
How long did that take?
Like 50, it was like 5 minutes. I found one. The hardest one was a toilet in the front yard. That was the hardest one.
That is so easy around here.
But you found it.
I found it.
About 5 minutes that direction. I guarantee you, I'll find one.
We had a call
in front of a trailer.
Yeah,
in like a field.
We had a call. 2 people feuding, and they would like constantly call us out because they both had protection from stalking, protection from abuse orders on each other. So if they crossed their driveway the wrong way, then they would call us and want us to arrest them. And they pulled into the street. They came over onto my side to turn around. Well, one of them, he had a toilet half buried in the yard with his enemy's face picture of it down in the toilet there next to
nice
flag that also riled people up.
Well,
yeah,
Walt seems to have a problem with the little bit of this sword he can see on my wall. I'm curious as to why.
He says, I'm so impressed by Papa Chuck's D&D catalog, but that sword has to go.
I don't know.
I think he's a big like samurai sword
guy.
Yeah,
he's a big warrior guy. I get it. That's strictly for decoration. I got a couple more of them hanging around here.
Look at it.
Is that a rapier? What kind of sword is that back there?
I think it would be technically classified as a saber. But it's just a decorative thing. The head of it has.
It's the saber of doom.
Doom. It's got a big dragon thing on it. Like I got it at Dragon Con one year just because it looked cool.
We're changing your name to Papa. Papa, make me a saber meme, Chuck.
make me a saber meme. That's true. What about you, Scott? What have you been up to this week or last week? Besides getting promoted.
Yeah, so changing my schedule, that was interesting. So not too bad, actually. So far, so good. I like it because it's not hot at night. There's less people and less cars driving about. Although the one car I drove past, the very first thing I did is like drove by an accident, which I thought that it was a straight T-bone. And I was like, oh my God, this person's going to be dead. But nope.
Nice.
Relatively okay. Airbags and side airbags apparently will save your life. So that was good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so then last week I spent a lot of time, if you look at the Keystroke Medium word count challenge word thing, you'll see I got like 20 words a day basically, but I've been finalizing and got it done with got 2 editors on Resistance Day. They both, Lauren went through it a couple of times. Then I had Beth go through it for proofreading. Then I went through it and listened to it and proofreaded the whole thing after they did everything they did, which is not always a step I have time for, but I made time. I got that done because there was a lot. The only negative reviews for the first book was too many typos, and that was a rush job at the end because I didn't plan well. I got it edited and stuff, but like the very first version went up was not the perfect final last version, just because of the time crunch. And then as soon as it published for real Invasion Day, I put up the new one, but it had already gone out as pre-order. So some people had bought the pre-order because you don't want to miss your pre-order. So anyway, long story short, this time I made a little bit more time. I did a much better job of that, got that up. So Resistance Day will be going live next week. Nice. Actually in a couple of days, and I'll start promoting it on the 18th. Don't usually promote it on the first day. And then started working on Victory Day, which is the 3rd book. Put that one up on pre-order against my better judgment. And then I'm working on finishing up my 3rd Aethon book in the Brothers in Arms trilogy. So I'm hoping that the first book, I think we're going to call it First Strike, Brothers in Arms, will come out in September, followed by 13 Mercenaries. And the last one will probably be called Expeditionaries War, or what was the Victorious or something. I had a couple different working titles on that one, but it's coming on okay. But mostly I've just been working on the Invasion Day series right now because you get caught in that pre-order thing. You got to get them done.
Oh yeah.
But I want to get that because I have another series I want to get to called Orphan Wars that I'm excited about too. So just scramble.
Had a question about, I'm trying to read it. Scott Moonrider, that promotion equals, there you go. Equals ads are going on podcasts. What kind of promotion are you doing?
So normally what I do is I start first I put it on pre-order or not pre-order, like a day or two after it goes live, I'll start doing paid promotions, different newsletter things. I tried for a BookBub feature, not BookBub feature. They have a BookBub new release. I didn't get it, but I tried several things like that. Things like, was it Book Barbarian? You got to schedule some of those pretty far in advance. That's why I do pre-orders. And then I'll ask my newsletter swaps to start swapping on that day when I kind of want to make a concerted push. But a lot of them just do it whenever it fits. So sometimes they'll be before the pre-order goes live. Sometimes they'll be a week after. I really don't complain because they'll help in the grand scheme of things. Although I'm not as excited about newsletter swaps as everyone seems to be. I think they're good and necessary, but they're really not enough by themselves unless you have somebody that has a massively powerful newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
And you really need like 6 people that have massive newsletters and have them each do one on a different day. So you stretch out your launch rather than just have a big spike and then it drops off, which I don't think is as good. But so yeah, that's basically it. A combination of paid ads, a combination of and then newsletter swaps. And then last time I tried I was pretty aggressive with my Amazon ads. And what I've learned is during a launch, your Amazon ads will spend because your book is naturally more visible. And a lot of people, they don't know the difference between a sponsored ad and just a regular. Like when I see a sponsored ad, I never click the sponsored ad because I know that costs the author money. I'll click on the one right below it that looks exactly the same.
Right.
But I think somebody who isn't into marketing or whatever, it's almost like it's more credible. And so that pops up first and people click on that. And that person was already going to look at your book and now you just paid for it. So I'm probably not going to do very many Amazon ads on the first couple of days, but you need to do a little bit of Amazon ad just because it helps Amazon latch onto your book, I think.
I think it's a combination of the right newsletter swaps.
Oh yeah.
Some paid, some efficient paid advertising, and then having a really good invested reader group or like a beta reader group. I know like Rip Partlow has a big beta reader group. Athon Books has got a curated reader group that they use. So that way when you're getting the books and the buys, you're also getting the reviews too. People will start seeing those stars pop up and take the reviews for how you want, but I think those stars are like, people look at the stars and they see those and they're like, oh, okay,
you need to have some. You don't want to have a product that's like, be the first to review this product.
Right. Well, and that too. And you see a book with 2 reviews and you're like, well, maybe it's not really that good. But you see a book with 20 or 30 reviews and you're like, okay, people like it. Let's look at it.
Yep. So on that topic real quick, we're kind of sidetracking off to marketing, which we don't really talk about that much. But so back in the day, like say 2013 to 2015, when I was kind of a lot newer in the indie stuff, blog tours were all the rage. Mm-hmm. That was always a part of that. And so you could set them all up, but it's massively time consuming. And there's you had to write a lot of blogs to get a lot of blogs and all that, but they had services. And some of them that were recommended me were that other authors would say, yeah, these are very good. I get good results. And so I did several as paid ones. But what I realized is they would be like, we're going to share it with 200 blogs. But they're almost all romance blogs because at the time, that's what all the writing blogs or book blogs were that I could find. And so Enemy of Man, when I launched it, I was advertising to romance readers basically. But I went back to the old maxim that any advertising is good advertising. That's not actually true.
That's not true
in this case. They need to be. So when you do swaps, I guess the point of that is to do swaps, get people who are actually have similar fan groups. Yeah. Not too similar because they'll be the same fans, but anyway. So I did that, and then I came here, and I got contacts in right now, and so I can't see the screen without one of my readers. That's the other big news.
Ain't no shame.
I can, but it's like, so I can see some things and not see some things. It's just, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
I think you should take them off when you're making a point, and then when you're making it, or you put them on when you're making a good point.
Hold them like this,
and then rip them off when you're making some kind of
like Superman style.
Yeah.
Like I'm skeptical of what you're. I'm skeptical of this bullshit. Let me put my readers on, and then it's like, what did you say? So,
yeah, exactly, just like that.
I got it. I'll work on it.
But work on it during the ad read. Before we do the ad read, Unity 151 BookTube asks, are there any other military sci-fi or space opera podcasts? You know what? I don't know specifically for space opera or mil sci-fi.
Well, you got Sci-Fi Shenanigans with J.R. Hanley.
That is true. Sci-Fi Shenanigans, but they're not strictly mil sci-fi. They're like they're all sci-fi, but they look at it from like the more, I think they like the more like hard sci-fi-ish angles.
I'm scheduled to be interviewed on the Fantasy Fiends podcast later this month, and they're having me on to talk about my Brace Cordova series because they do space opera. So there's that.
Is right. They started doing space opera.
Yeah,
so you Sci-Fi Shenanigans.
They won't do urban fantasy. I'm gonna have to ask more.
That'll be good for you because are you going to read from your book?
I don't know. I haven't really talked to them about what they want me to do.
That's what are their names? Josh, help me out.
I can't.
Run it to my tongue.
Somewhere I can't remember.
It's Stephen Collier and Andy Peliquin.
Right. Yeah. Andy and Steve. So when I went on there, you'd send them a sample of your book, and then like I think I read one character, and then Steve would read one, and Andy would read like the narrative, and then you would do kind of this little thing. It is kind of fun.
Okay.
And since you're a good reader, you probably knocked that out of the park.
Well,
I know that I will be on Bane's podcast on Wednesday. They're doing a live broadcast for the show sponsor, Battle Luna, which is a space opera mil sci-fi anthology by Bane Books. I'm going to put the link in the comments, and it'll be in the show notes as well. Battle Luna, an epic fight for independence on our moon. Stories by Travis Taylor, Timothy Zahn, Michael Z. Williamson, Casey Zell, and moi. Yours truly. So I'll read the blurb. Something has been uncovered on the moon that might give great scientific and economic importance. The lunar colony is a mining colony with only internal security capabilities. Nobody had even considered there might someday arise a need to defend the colony from Earth. But that day has come. The lunar colonists made this great discovery and perceive it as their own. Finders keepers and possession is 9/10 of the law is how things are seen on the moon. But the governments of Earth don't quite see eye to eye with the Lunarians' philosophy. As far as the Earth is concerned, they paid for everything on the moon, so it belongs to them. There's only one solution: Battle Luna
of Doom.
So
I think Lauren is trying to be professional and steer us back on topic.
Negative. We don't ever stay on topic at all. Anyway, so Battle Luna was a really fun project. Super cool side note is this is the first hardcover that I've ever walked into a bookstore and seen my name on a hardcover on Barnes & Noble shelf.
That's pretty cool, man.
And I did that this week, and that was super cool.
They escorted you out for signing your book
on the shelf and took pictures of it, and then took them back out.
Yeah. No, I did not do that. I walked out. I walked in empty-handed, and then walked out empty-handed. I almost bought one, but then I was like, if I buy one, then somebody else isn't going to be able to buy one. And so I went up to the guy and I was like, "Hey, this is a weird question, but
it's a really good point.
Can I?" Yeah, this is yes. Shake your glasses. Can I sign this book? And they were like, "Is it yours?" And I go,
"Security."
Yeah, security.
Yeah. And so anyway, I had a nice conversation with the Barnes & Noble guy. That was really fun. I got to sign the inside cover of the hardcover edition. They even put like a little author signature, author autograph sticker on the cover.
Very cool.
So that was fun, man. It was kind of fulfilling and a neat thing to see. And the story was really fun to work on. It was basically, I modeled it after Fury Road. So it's called Lunar Fury. And So yeah, it's a good thing. Go and buy it and read my story and then give us a 5-star review. Do it.
Go to the bookstore and look for it irregardless.
Irregardless if you buy it on ebook or not.
So much of who I am. I hate you both.
So our topic today is the murky middle and a whole bunch of other stuff that we may or may not get to. We've talked about the murky middle before. It's always the sagging middle section. And that seems to be a lot of problems that authors have when they have their inciting incident. They have the beginning of the book, which is super fun to write. You're developing your characters, you're getting into the story, and then you hit about 30,000, 40,000 words, and you're like, I have absolutely no idea what we're going to do now until we get to the climax. And so it starts to sag and it becomes kind of boring. Or you have a lot of things that are happening and it's all kind of disjointed and you're confused and you're like, I don't know where I'm going. And so you quit. So that is one of the hardest things in writing is the middle of the book. And so I thought Dean brought it up in the group chat, in a group Facebook post that Chuck made. I thought it was a really good idea to talk about. And then Lauren post these questions. Well, let's tackle these one at a time. What propels you through a book or a movie as a viewer or a reader? Honestly, for me, that really kind of depends on the book.
Getting my $18 worth of it's a movie.
Yeah. So, like, for instance, we talked about the First Law trilogy either last week or a couple weeks ago. And I mentioned that my favorite character in that trilogy was Glocta. And for that particular book series, it was Glocta that propelled me through the series. It was his actions and his character.
You wanted to know what he was going to do and what was going to happen to him.
Yes. And so now I'm listening to the core, and what's propelling me is finding out, do they actually beat the demons or not? And how do they do it? So I guess for that, it really kind of depends on the book and the characters and different things. I know for me, when I write, I try to make it so that it's a personal problem for the characters that are involved and trying to have them overcome that issue, but then making it more harder as they're going along.
So you might say those are all related to some sort of story question.
Yes.
A story question.
Yeah. It's characters for me. If I need a character I can latch on to, and as long as I can get invested in caring about what happens to this character, I can forgive a lot. That's 99% of the time. The other one.
So you might have a question like, are they going to be okay? Are they going to make it?
Right, that kind of thing. I want to know what happens to this guy, and I can forgive plot holes and that sort of thing if I've got a good character to latch onto that I'm concerned about and I want to see him through to the end of the movie, show, whatever. The other 1% of the time, though, is I reserve for mysteries. I love a good whodunit. And I can be very forgiving of cardboard characters and that sort of thing if there's a mystery to be solved, because I really enjoy trying to figure it out before the detective does. I started reading Agatha Christie when I was very young, and I just got that bug, and I've always had it.
Do you think that's limited to whodunits, or is that if you read other books and you're like, what's the question here, and they're trying to answer it, and that's propelling you through?
And when I say whodunits, you're correct. It's more like if there's something they're trying to figure out. Like in a thriller, a thing has happened, and it's how you deal with that thing happening.
Right.
And in a mystery, it's more of a thing has happened, and you're trying to figure out how it happened, why it happened. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a murder mystery, but anytime there's a good mystery to be solved, I can get invested in that and put characters and things like that in the back seat if I need to.
So, having said that, could you put a subplot mystery or a question or something in the middle that would help you get through the middle, or is that a bad idea?
Absolutely. I think that one of the best ways to get through the marshy middles is you have a subplot and some minor ongoing questions that logline through the entire book. That way, if you do have that slog in the middle, you can, your hero can start reflecting on, well, how did this happen? Why did that happen? Why did this person do that? Because questions are what drive the story. That's what pulls people in, and that's what holds them. And as long as you wrap that up, all of those questions get answered at the end, you've done your job. So I definitely think subplots, in my opinion, are the best way to get through that marshy middle. Give them a question that you don't answer until later, and sort of lean on that when the main plot slows down a little bit.
So would you do a subplot with the main character has like a side hustle, or maybe a secondary character has their own thing?
You can also do it with like a love interest kind of thing. If they've got maybe they got a girlfriend or something and they're having a fight. Anything to make you think, well, I want to know what happens with this.
Yeah.
That's going to help. That's going to help the reader get through that middle part.
Or maybe you could take and like do a step-by-step catalog of everything Josh cleaned on his boat and all the tools he used to do it. I see that in books books just sag in general, and some genres actually. We've talked about this before, like in the post-apoc. Sometimes that's very important because they want to know exactly what you have, because those are your tools for survival, and it's a little bit different. But the first few times I read some post-apocs, there's one called Gray, I think. And it went into such exhausting detail about just the things that you had in your possession. And I found it very tedious. But so I think list making and stuff would be what not to do in the middle for sure. Maybe have one thing.
I think one of the things that I try to do is you have your beginning and then you have your end. And when you're in the creation process or my planning and plotting process, you're trying to get to that end point, and that's where you're at. You have your beginning and your end, and those are the cool things that you're trying to do with your book. I try not to limit the cool things to the end. Like, I want to have the end be super cool, but if you could do like 2 or 3 other super cool things that are in your book, it's like the thing where you have 3 ideas, and so you're going to do a trilogy, and instead of doing a trilogy, put them all into one book, so that way you don't have the saggy middle, because you're trying to cram in those 3 things into your book. So you have a third and a third and a third of your book, and each of those thirds you're working to that really cool thing that you've come up with, and that helps me anyway keep pushing towards the
develop a deeper overall concept, and rather than just doing the top of the head, this is my first idea, this is one book, take 3 things, develop them, and things like that. So like if we looked at our show today as a literary masterpiece, so like right now we're in the middle, and so basically all of our valuable content right now is coming pretty much in the middle of the book. So we bullshitted for the first 30% of the show, but that's character building. So hopefully
that's right.
That's right.
People are having people relax, and then we hit them with the knowledge. So the middle's worth watching, and then we'll have to figure out how we're going to have a surprising but inevitable ending to this show that brings people back and makes them hit the subscribe button.
Coyote chorus.
That's right.
I also think we should put Silent Wolf's comment on there. My main character's hustle is knitting.
Well, but that actually brings up a good point. You want to make sure that these little subplots and things are engaging. It's one of the cardinal rules is thou shalt not be boring. And
Silent Wolf ran out of yarn in the middle of the book.
Oh,
trying to sit down.
Knitting with death yarn.
Yeah.
Sacred yarn.
Knitting of doom. You could definitely spice it up.
So I don't know. I've definitely know that hell, look at King's work. Like King's I've
sagging middles.
I have not finished. What's that? What's the one where he goes back in time? 11/22/63 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Like you could pretty much cut out 500 pages of that book.
Well, it's just like he has a story and then a different story and then the rest of the first story.
Yeah,
a lot of times.
So it was really tough. Like a lot of that, I was like, why okay. And I get it. Like he's
I've
not
heard
a father.
that so often that I've never read it because so many people have said that exact thing, that it's just, it's drawn out.
It's and the crazy thing is when he first starts, I don't know, it's not spoilers because I don't even remember what he does, but when he first starts going into this thing, time travel or whatever,
like that.
Well, yes, he does, but that's not his original thing. Like his original, the first 20% of the book is figuring out what exactly is happening, and that's interesting. And there's some kind of mysterious things that are happening with a really kind of one-off character, and you're like, okay, what's all that about? And you know, that's the kind of thing that Stephen King does. Like we're talking about the Outsider last week, and there's some things that happened in the Outsider. They're like, well, that's interesting, but what's all that about? But he doesn't really touch on it. And on this one, you're like, okay, that's interesting. Why is he doing that? And then you figure out, oh, he's going to do this. Okay, that's cool. But then when he decides, okay, I'm going to go back and do this thing, you get like this really long span of time where he's like trying to date a teacher, and like there's a whole bunch of others, and you're just like, this doesn't have anything to do. James McCormick, the 11/22/68. And so anyway, I know the idea of the book is he goes back to save Kennedy, or try to save Kennedy.
Right.
But I don't know if he ever does, because I haven't finished the book because it's super long. But that's an example of where you can the author can get lost, but it's also where you're losing people in the middle, because the beginning was super engaging, and whether or not you have a great ending or not, and that's why I try to do the 1, 2, 3 good like gut punch during your writing, so that way something really cool happens, you're like, oh, that was really cool, and then you keep reading to see what the really cool next thing is, because if you don't get to the end, if you don't push the reader all the way through to the end, they're never going to get to that cool thing that you thought of.
That brings up a lot of what you're saying. It brings up a lot of, like in movies, a lot of times they'll have a reversal. There's a lot of times in a plot there'll be a reversal or a surprise, right, or something in the middle where everything changes. And it doesn't have to be like literally everything's reversed, but it can be like the stakes escalate so much, or something has changed. So we talked about ways to get rid of the murky middle. Might be you gotta have a good story question, or more than one, involving your characters. But you might also need I just lost my train of thought.
Well, I think if you're like Lauren just, but not Ramble's discovery writes, right? Like if you're discovery writing and you get into that murky middle, like figure out what your book's trying to do, but then when you're revising, go back and take like 80% of that stuff out. Like just get to don't leave it in, like figure it out, discovery write, do what you do. But then when you go back and rewrite it, all the stuff that led up to that cool thing, you could probably cut out 80%.
I think her comment is in reference to an earlier comment somebody made about Stephen King's writing, that he definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Well, with him, it all stays in.
Question, though. Would that manuscript have made it past an editor's desk at one of the big houses if Stephen King's name wasn't on it?
Maybe not.
I absolutely doubt it. I think, and that's like the Dome. Like I don't think the Dome would have made it through.
Yeah, that's a monster.
Because all his books are monsters, right? But like. It's like some of David Weber's latest stuff that's super long and kind of long-winded. And that's just David. He's long-winded. But a lot of that stuff, if he wasn't already established as a big name, that stuff would not get through edits. It wouldn't get through publishing because they'd be like, no, cut it out.
So the train of thought I lost with that was all those other things I said, but is that you need to have change, a meaningful change in the story. And I think sometimes the slog in the middle is they're just kind of like marching their way to Mordor. There's not really a lot of change. I mean, you could, like, you're changing your setting, or maybe you're running into new people, but it's not meaningful change to the character or the plot or their objective or what's against them. So I think having some meaningful change and maybe surprising change, it would be important to keep in the middle alive as well.
Yep, I agree 100%.
So genre mashups. What's your favorite genre mashup that you've ever seen, read, whatever, even written?
I think it's funny because genre mashups can like be really successful, but most of the time they're hard to market. And Dark Landing is a genre mashup, and I think we had really rabid fans for Dark Landing, but who do you market to? Because if you give it to a Western reader, they're going to hate it, because Western readers want Westerns. They don't want Western sci-fi.
Right.
And the sci-fi people may not be into the Western stuff either. Everybody says they love Firefly, which is how we branded it, as kind of a Firefly-esque type of thing. But obviously, people don't love Firefly as much as they say, because if they did, it would still be on the air, or it would have come back.
So I like Walt's Pig Dog, and if you're a fan of Dark Landing, you'll understand. So I'm not sure. Like, the thing about Firefly is not like Game of Thrones, right? Like Game of Thrones, it had a massive reach, and I think one of the reasons it had a massive reach and one of the things it was so popular is because it was so different, but it was also like you could watch it and you didn't have to get over like magic or anything like that. It was just like low key, like political, all that stuff, right? Firefly was very out there. It was a very they did a lot of, instead of just doing one new thing, they did a whole bunch of new things. Like they did the genre mashup, but then they also like spoke Chinese half the time. Like, so they did a lot of different things in that show. And
they were ahead of their time. That's part of what gave them such a hard time.
Yeah. Well, they released the episodes out of order too.
Yeah. A lot of that was Fox's fault.
Fox screwed up the release, and so like the first episode was not the first episode. The first episode was like episode 4 or whatever. Like it all got messed up. But I think though, like you have, like for instance, you have a lot of people that like Dark Landing, but the rabid Dark Landing fans, it's a small group. Same thing with Firefly. Like there's a lot of people like watch Firefly in the genre, but comparatively speaking to like Avengers, like the numbers like this that like Firefly. So
and I've done several mashups. So we had Dark Landing, which was Firefly meets Tombstone, sci-fi Western. I've done Viking sci-fi with basically Starship Troopers and Vikings. I've done police in crossing into a fantasy world. I've done a lot of them, and so I've always worried that, because they always sound like the most, when you pitch, the thing is about a mashup, when you pitch a mashup to your friends, it's going to blow people away.
Yep.
And you write it and it's a blast, and then it doesn't sell and you don't understand why. So I don't know what the answer to that is. I just say it's something to be careful with, that just because it sounds like a brilliant mashup does not mean you should do it, or not mean you should do it without some caution, or you got to really bring your A game to a mashup.
I think when you do a mashup, there's a lot of things that, like for instance, you want to look at the presentation. So Dark Landing, it was presented as 30,000 word short stories every 18 days, and so you look at Firefly and you go, how many, they did so many different things. And maybe they did a couple things too many, and that's why it wasn't successful. Yeah. But maybe Dark Landing, if you would have done, 90,000 word books spread out over the course of a longer time period instead of the 18 days, would it have caught on better or done differently?
Well, and so here's one of the things too, is I think also, so you go back into targeting and market niche and things like that. So a lot of Craig's fan bases who we're relying on for that, and a lot of them were Anderle fans, and so they were looking for vampire sci-fi.
Yep.
And of course that's like a incredible 18-way mashup if you go into the Kutherian Gambit and stuff like that. Well, that's not what Dark Landing was, and so maybe it just didn't catch on for that reason. And plus, they were busy reading the 37 books in the Kutherian Gambit and probably didn't have time for Dark Landing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of books in that series.
But I had people at 20 books that said they had read the entire Dark Landing series 10 times.
See, I mean, that's legit.
So people who like it really like it. So I just
and there's always going to be somebody, that resonates with what you've done. It's just you got to find something that's a lot of somebody's.
Right.
Right. Well, I think too, like look at the weird Western. Almost kind of what you're doing. You take the Western, you put it into a different genre, which is kind of an fantasy Western. And they aren't super popular, but look at Haley Stone's book, Make Me No Grave.
It broke out. They used to call that in music, they call it a crossover tune, where it crossed over from country into pop or vice versa and things like that. I think if you're looking for expectations on a mashup, and again, like I'm just running my mouth about mashups right now, but I think you should probably, if you look at a mashup and you're like, I'm going to take Viking sci-fi fiction and Starship Troopers, and I'm going to sell these two ideas, what you can probably expect is you're going to sell to the smaller of those two groups.
Yeah.
And so you think you're going to get all of them from both groups, but you're probably just getting the smaller group.
Right. Well, but you look at like that book, Make Me No Grave, was received super well, like really, really well. Reviewed extremely well. Everybody that read in the genre, everybody that's read the book I don't know that I've seen a bad review on Make Me No Grave.
Yeah. So I guess my caveat with mashups would be that you get your hopes with them, but if they work and you strike across all those different boundaries that I keep throwing up because I'm such a pessimist today, then you have something amazing like Make Me No Grave, where people are just like blown away.
Like you say, you it's a small audience. So what other genre match like military fantasy, or dogs barking? Military fantasy is not a huge genre. It's not really a mashup. But you could have like a small unit tactics fantasy like that. That's a different mashup you could do. I don't know whether it will sell well or not. I'm trying to think of other like common mashups that actually do really well.
Well, you can slap horror on top of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Alien. Alien was a mashup.
Comedy horror.
Yeah.
You know?
Aliens was go ahead.
Sci-fi horror. You know, a lot of fantasy has super dark horror elements in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I in a lot of ways, I think that sometimes you're not necessarily mashing up two whole genres.
Right.
Okay? I think a lot of times what you want to do is you want to write a sci-fi book, say, but then you want to put this nice little veneer of horror on top of it. You know, not really go for all the horror. You got to pick the one that's going to carry the weight, but you can still sprinkle a little bit of the horror in there. You know, I've seen a lot
kind of what Dean's saying in the live chat.
Yeah. What Dean's saying, don't do 50-50, do like a 70-30.
Exactly. You know, I've seen a lot of cop shows that were set in the future, but they weren't, the sci-fi elements weren't really all that like out there. They were just kind of part of the setting in the background, and it was mostly a cop show. You know, that kind of thing.
Well, that people say that about Aliens, is that it's a horror show in a sci-fi setting.
Exactly.
Which I guess is a one way to do a mashup. You know, so just take this and put them in another setting, or take the setting.
If you try to put all the tropes from both genres or however many genres into the story, you're going to overpack it and bog it down and make it hard for the viewer, reader, consumer to follow.
Yeah, and so James McCormick says there's a lot of readers that won't read sci-fi, period. There's also a lot of sci-fi readers who won't read fantasy.
Yeah,
I find that weird because I read both, and I know we all do. But I did a newsletter one time with a poll, and I had some of my fans. I was very surprised. They were like, "Don't write any more fantasy, just write sci-fi. That's what I want to read." And they knew what they liked.
I've had people tell me
go for that.
Anything but the Brace Cordova books, and I've had other people tell me that they want me to just stop whatever I'm doing and go back to the Pickman Files books. I mean, it's all just a matter of taste.
You can't make everyone happy.
No, you can't.
James McCormick mentioned Lit RPG, which is it is kind of a mashup in a way because you're taking it's not really so you're usually fantasy, but sometimes sci-fi, and putting it in a game world, so it's a mashup in that you're kind of tweaking the genre. But I don't know this is
I don't know what if the gaming side of that is necessarily a genre unto itself.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
They're portal stories. It's really all they are. It goes there
with the
exactly
the
it's Tron.
It's Tron. The bones of like a level up system where the
yeah. I don't know. I have not read Lit RPG, but I mean, if I want to deal with stats and gaming stuff, I use these books back here. And if I want to read a story, I just want it to be a story. You know what I mean?
Well, Ready Player One's Lit RPG.
I never read that. I just watched the movie.
I haven't read or watched it. I'm a total loser.
It kind of goes to the 70-30 thing that we were talking about, because it's kind of a sci-fi action movie, but it's both set in the real world and in a video game, and so you can kind of make that jump, and you can almost say that it's not really a mashup because it's just its own thing. Like that's a fully encased genre.
Right.
Like Chris Partlow said, cyber thriller fantasy. I'm honestly not sure if that one could work. I do not think cyber thriller fantasy could work.
Maybe psycho thriller fantasy.
That almost sounds like you're throwing down a gauntlet.
You could do a psycho thriller.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other really successful match. The thing is about mashups is you have if it's a weird mashup like a Western and something else, like with the Western audience is very small. It's very dedicated. Like Louis L'Amour has a lot of readers, and so does Elmore Leonard, but the readership is still small. So you kind of like somebody. I don't know if somebody mentioned it in the group or if we mentioned it in our private chat, but somebody was mentioning being able to write without the fear of not being successful.
That was one of Josh's questions or show ideas.
That was a suggestion I put out there.
Chuck's.
Yeah. So if you're going to write a lit RPG and you want to write something that is off, like that's different, you can write a mashup of whatever genre you want to write, and just be aware that those genres might be small in and of themselves, but then when you put them together, that audience is going to be that much less, because you have people, like we just said, who don't go between sci-fi and fantasy. So they might not go to sci-fi Western because they're sci-fi readers. They don't want to read a sci-fi Western. They just want to read a sci-fi. And so when you make a sci-fi Western, you automatically cut them out because they don't want to go into another genre.
Yeah. And they can be vocal critics, and it just depends. And sometimes you do that. Like my dad read a lot of Louis L'Amour, and he was constantly trying to get me to read this book, and I can't remember, but it was kind of had some kind of Native American magic systems in it and stuff. And I still haven't read it because I got so sidetracked, but it was a little bit fantasy, and that was way outside his normal, although he'll read Stephen King, and actually my dad reads a lot of different stuff. So speaking of mashups, one of the ones we talked about last time that I couldn't remember was called Storm Dancer, the Lotus War. And that is a Japanese samurai steampunk post-apoc. And I loved it. And I think it's a traditional published one. I think it's fairly successful, but anyway, so.
I never read a steampunk book. I want to try one. I really do want to try like a legitimate steampunk book.
Yeah, the only one I read was that unusual case of Spring-Heeled Jack, but I don't know that that's necessarily steampunk.
I think they should, instead of being steampunk, they should be like steam, not quite a punk, like steam, decent person.
Do you think that steampunk is a mashup? Like, because it's fantasy, but it's mixed up with kind of
I think
like
it's more its own thing. It's like I think it's
I think it's kind of
like lit RPG almost.
Yeah.
This is such just the whole topic of genre and where the dividing lines are, if there are any even really. It's such a kind of nebulous topic because you could take just about any story that just isn't straight down the middle, whatever, and say, oh, there's elements of this and elements of that, so therefore it's a
you could take Star Wars and say, well, that's really a sci-fi Western. It's a mashup of the old Western tropes and Star Trek. So it's a mashup.
It would be a space fantasy Western.
Space fantasy, yeah.
Edge of Valor is kind of a mashup of police procedural and military sci-fi. Which is interesting because everybody likes that mashup, but it's the most negative comment I get is that it's not sci-fi enough. So they like the mashup of police procedural and military thriller. So I wonder if I wrote a modern day version of that and then didn't say they're like
took the sci-fi out.
Just took the sci-fi out completely and wrote a modern day thriller like that. I wonder if it would go. It would
might. You should write a thriller because that's a huge market. If you could break into that, that'd be like the bomb.
I'll just take Edge of Valor and strip all the military stuff out, change all the names, and put it up. See if I can make it work.
Find replace. What could go wrong? So I'd like
times. Oh, go ahead.
I just said I think we should do a whole show on. Can you? What was your question in the message, Chuck? The writing for passion and still.
Can you write without fear and still write for profit? And by that I meant, just because I was listening to the radio this morning and they were talking about taking the Indian off of the Land O'Lakes labels and all that. Okay, whatever. But then I got to thinking about it, and I mean, are we in an age where you have to edit what you say? Like, if I write a character who's super racist, say,
it'll be the villain.
And they're the bad guy, whatever. But if
I'm listening to the Mercedes book,
character true to what that character would say, dropping the N-word here all over the place and just being the kind of person that kind of person is. If I write that true to that character, do I have to be afraid of getting canceled, as they say, as the young folks are saying, because I was telling the story the way in an accurate fashion?
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
You're getting into literary.
I'm in no way, shape, or form that kind of person myself. But if I'm portraying a character on the page for entertainment purposes, and that character is the the abomination that he is, do I have to censor him and cut back on the story because I need to worry about people buying this book?
We need to come back to that another show because that's really important. And I think we do that to some degree on all of our characters, because how many times have you said, man, I hope people don't think I'm this character?
Right.
Well, look at what's the Quentin Tarantino movie, Django Unchained. And Leonardo DiCaprio, there's another, I can't remember what the actor's name is. Even Samuel L. Jackson, like they use the N-word like a lot in that movie, and it's the hugely negative word, not the one.
Well, that's the way it was in those days.
No, exactly, and that is how they talk. That is how they talked to people, about people, whatever. And it's funny because you don't see anybody coming out and saying that Quentin Tarantino is a racist and that he needs to be canceled. So it's interesting that you see like a lot of these things, a lot of these authors like pulling back their books, and they're like, oh, I don't know, this was wrong with that. I was talking about slavery or blah 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 blah. But you don't see people telling Quentin Tarantino not to say the N-word in movies, or not to write a racist character in movies. And that comes down, like you're saying, like we said earlier, about the name and being able to do different things. So that's very interesting. We should definitely do a show on that.
We had to have some sort of safe word though when it's too political.
Armageddon.
I despise politics.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it's been an hour, so we will wrap it up. I apologize to everybody who made it through that hour-long ramble session. It was fun. Everybody in the live chat, thank you guys for hanging out with us. If you're just catching us on the audio feed, we're live on Mondays, but we don't know when. We're live on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern with Lauren and Kayleen. And stop. Oh,
I thought you were pointing at Chuck.
I thought you were pointing at me. I'm like, dude, what am I?
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Go back out. I got to finish. So we have our visitor. That's our mascot. So come back and hang out with us. It was fun. If you're on the audio, come check us out on YouTube Live. Subscribe. I don't know where we're at now, but if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, go and do it, and then tell your friends to go and subscribe because we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers this year. We're really close. I think we're at like 980 something. So if you haven't subscribed, go and do it. And yeah, that's it. Good times. We'll come back next week. I don't know what we're talking about, but we're obviously going to talk about writing. Sometimes we'll talk about reading, and most of the time we just talk about everything else. So come back, hang out with us. It'll be good times. Have a good Monday, y'all. Peace.
Laters.
Later, guys.